Consortium of Merit is here to do two things: drink tea and kick all kinds of mech ass. And they're all out of tea. Ironcast is a hodgepodge of gameplay mechanics, elements of match 3s, turn-based combat, loot rewards, and roguelike level progression come together to make a very diverse experience, making it feel like several games in one. Even with so many plates spinning at once, Ironcast doesn't come off as scattered and the player doesn't feel overwhelmed. The year is 1886. England has been locked in a decade-long war with France over the possession of the energy source known as voltite. Battles are fought between these nations using naval forces, air bombings, and advanced bipedal tanks known as the Ironcast. These 20-foot-tall mechanical war machines are equipped with projectile armaments, energy-based munitions, and electrical shields. While the Ironcast are by far the most capable weapon being utilized in this conflict, the British military is not authorized to use them. Patents and blueprints are actually owned by the Consortium of Merit, a private organization of supremely wealthy lords and ladies sworn to defend England. These aristocratic tacticians hand-select their designs, gunners, and crew and march to the front lines in their Ironcast cockpit. Separated from the modest means of the government's provisions, these mechs are eloquently decorated by the pilot's personal tastes, putting their full heart and soul forward as Britain's final hope. The player begins the game with a single pilot and Ironcast, waking up on the burning streets of London in the middle of a bitter fight with an enemy mech. After a brief tutorial introducing the puzzle nodes, weapon systems, and win conditions, the player is set to tear down the invading French forces. Single missions are chosen out of 3 randomly generated scenarios on the map, with a boss encounter occurring after 9 in-game days. Tasks range from simply destroying the opposing mech to negotiating terms with merchants for supplies. At the end of a successful mission, the player is rewarded with scrap metal for currency, XP for new skills, blueprints for improved Ironcast systems, and manpower for the war effort. Enemies and objectives become progressively more difficult as the war drags on, but the player and their Ironcast grow stronger with each victory. The puzzle section of the game begins at the start of the player's turn. They need to match at least 3 of any type of color-coded node in order to gain supplies to spend on their mech. Each supply is a capped amount that can be accumulated once, so the player needs to carefully select their resources and how to spend them to efficiently equip and repair their Ironcast. After 3 chains have been completed, the puzzle grid locks in place and no more nodes can be gained. Other types of nodes will randomly generate in order to help the player when the grid gets scrambled later on in a match. Overdrive nodes allow weapons to fire an extra shot or provide additional energy for shields or evasive maneuvers, while link nodes allow different types of resources to be chained together in a single bomb. Weapon systems require ammo nodes to fire. Drive motors and shields need energy to power them, and every system consumes coolant as they're used by the player. If the Ironcast runs out of coolant before another of its systems are used, its hull will take additional damage. If the player's hull damage reaches 0, the Ironcast will explode and the game will end in a permadeath. After the player's defeat, they will gain global XP that unlocks additional pilots, Ironcast models, passive skills, and stat bonuses for following playthroughs depending on their performance. At first, death will come early, but starting campaigns will become a breeze as the player gathers more unlockables following their previous effort. It works well to draw the player back into the game to try a new style of play with a more capable Ironcast frame or test a new pilot's passive skills. Ironcast is a steampunk game through and through. From its hand-painted visuals to the typewriting sound effects that play when the characters communicate, the 19th century is well represented. The stars of the show are the mechs themselves, being the only pieces of art that aren't still frames. If it weren't for the simplistic buildings in the background of most fights, the sense of scale for the Ironcast would be nearly invisible. The only connection to the fighting and dying people trapped in the war is relayed in the back-and-forth text between missions. Ironcast wears its tight budget and big heart on its sleeve. It's no mystery that this game's development was focused on well-crafted game mechanics and campaign replayability, instead of extensive visuals and multiplayer combat. Ironcast is a rare example that proves Match 3 games can work hand in hand with other established game mechanics to produce something greater than just the sum of their parts. If you're looking for a deceptively simple game about fighting steampunk mechs, then jump in your Ironcast and get ready to fight for Queen and Country.